Thanks, everyone. She's right. I'm one of the few executives who meet in the media business that has a bunch of engineering degrees, was a mission controller at NASA, and now, of course, I use none of it. I work at CBS, and today we're not going to talk about anything lofty like going to the moon or drones or robotics. I'm going to talk to you about probably one of the most important things in our lives. It's a fuel that you all and I consume every day: content. Right? You may say, yeah, well, right, content's a fuel of my life. Try put away your phones, your TVs, any books, magazines in your home for one day and see what happens. You start bouncing off the walls, right? Content is something that the human spirit sort of needs. So in that vein, we're going to have a little fun today. So has everybody been to an event where you play, like if you go to an Apple WDC, where you play Apple Bingo? Like every time somebody says awesome or great, you kind of check a box on a grid. So we at CBS, we operate and own a couple thousand events every year. A couple of them are concerts, right? Let's say 20 to 30 concerts and festivals. So we launched an app a couple of weeks ago called Pingo, okay? Photo Bingo, right? And so we created a game for today here at Strictly Mobile. It's iOS only right now. Android will be coming out soon. But if you look at this, and please download the app and play along today, take these pictures and somebody, we're going to give somebody a $100 gift card as somebody who actually fills out the grid and gets picked. But you can see it's stuff like a picture of me, a picture of the Strictly Mobile logo, a picture of somebody sleeping in the audience, some coffee, the usual stuff that you see at these conferences. And we'll contact the winner later today, and we'll ship you off a gift card. But I want you to think about, we own these events, and we're trying to think of new ways to engage with consumers at these events. It's one thing to go to a concert, and we operate, let's say, a big one in Los Angeles every year called Weenie Roast in May, where we have, a lot of bands, let's say 20, 25 bands over multiple stages, and we're trying to connect with consumers while they're at those events. So we wanted to try that here today, so please play along. When you look at the way kind of Silicon Valley versus media companies looks at the world right now, this is kind of what people talk about. There's digital companies which have massive growth, and then there's traditional media companies. And we don't look at it this way at CBS. We look at it this way, right? We create great content, and we deliver it wherever consumers are, whether that's on a mobile device, a computer, a TV screen, or radio. And we really, this is the way we think about things. I want you to think about, all of you that use Facebook, Twitter, YouTube on your phones. Think about what you're doing there. You're consuming content, right? You're not just sitting there staring at a screen. And just to give you a little bit of credibility, give us a little bit of credibility, this isn't a CBS pitch, just the division I run at CBS, we have a bunch of apps we run, some seen here, but we also operate over 120 mobile websites. And when you add that all up, we reach about 40 million people a month just on these products. Forgetting desktop or television and radio, just on these mobile products, we reach 40 million people in this country. So it's big reach, right? It's big media. So the question is then, what do you bring to these devices? And really, I kind of want to talk about it this way, right? So if you look at these two smartphones here, this is probably 90% or 95% of the US smartphone market are these two, family of smartphones. And when you think about it, they both have big screens now. You both can send emails. You can use Facebook. You can do all the same things on each phone. But really what makes this thing your device is the content you consume and what you do with it day in and day out. And so, we have been really focused in on, all right, how can we take mobile and take it to the next level and integrate it with what we're doing? So I'm going to show you a couple things today from content as examples of things we're doing that I think you're going to see more and more of. So first off, I want to start off by saying content is king, right? Content is the driver that drives all these devices. Netflix, we're one of the biggest sellers of content to Netflix, right? When you look at all these different services, it's about the content. But you see that I have a little asterisk there, right? And the asterisk is this: not commoditized or perishable content, right? Perishable content means the weather from 2 days ago. sports report from 2 days ago, right? It has a shelf life, right? You really don't care about what happened in the New York Knicks 2 days ago. You want to know, immediately after they win or lose. In the case of the Knicks, unfortunately, lose, and you want to know about it immediately. So, and then the other piece is commoditized content. We're going to talk about that here in a second, right? So here's a great example. Sources of weather content. The turn of the 20th century, if you lived in a town like San Francisco, there were 2 to 3 newspapers you would get tomorrow's weather in, right? Probably turn of the century, it wasn't very accurate, but you would open up the paper and you'd see it there. Then about 20, 30 years later, in the 20s, commercial radio comes on. So now you have 2 to 4 more sources of weather content, right? Starting to get a little commoditized. Then this thing TV comes along, 4 to 6 more sources for weather. Then we had cable TV in the 80s, 2 to 3 more sources of local weather. Then this thing called the PC comes along, and now you add 10 or 20 more. Then the mobile phone. So when you look at this, at any given day, you probably have 50 to 60 sources at a minimum of where you can go get weather. Now, that data may be coming from the same place, but it's packaged up differently in those 50 places. But I can say the same thing about sports content, the same thing about entertainment content, and the same thing about local news. So we're going through this evolution about looking at this content, how we can make it different on the local level so that we differentiate ourselves from all the different other folks out there delivering this type of content. But I heard, last night at dinner, a few folks, and then today at the breakfast, it's never been easier than today to create content, right? You got Final Cut Pro, you've got DJ here on the right, you have all these different tools that you can go out and create great content. But here's the little secret that has been happening for the last 60 years. You've been able to go into your garage with 4 buddies with a 4-track recorder and record a song to make a #1 hit. Anybody want to guess how many #1 hits there have been from independent artists over the last 50 years or so? Anyone? 2. That's right, 2. Lisa Loeb in the 90s with Everybody Remembers Stay, right? Song everybody loves to hate. And then Macklemore a couple years ago, right? Every other #1 song in that time frame has been produced through the record label system, right? I'm not here to defend the record labels. All I'm telling you is creating great content continues to be hard. And that's, both a good and a bad thing. When you look at what Netflix, Hulu, Yahoo, a number of others are doing, getting in the content business, they're hiring TV and movie professionals to create that content. It's a skill craft. It's not something you pick up just by going in your garage and trying to record a song or make a movie. All right, so anybody here, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Anybody here a University of Wisconsin, Michigan State, or University of Kentucky alum? Anybody? We got 1. That's awesome. Sucks to be you today. So we have this little event.
Go attack, and look at the run out, the big fella large. Oh, Cooper. Numbers. Lob, Dawson. Over to Winslow, and another Duke come down. The 3 foul. Nice roll. And he has to step aside. Winslow could not defend it. They're driving the closeouts. Shot that quick, but look at this. Right back with it.
Okay, so that was 2 Saturdays ago at the Final Four. I went to Duke University for grad school, so I believe it or not, I went with 24 buddies to the Final Four, at least for the weekend, right? So Saturday night, we go to the Duke-Michigan State game. We see Duke win. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Then we say, okay, it was the early game. Then we say, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to stick around for the second game, which was Kentucky-Wisconsin, which was a big upset. So we watched the first half of this.
Welcome to the Final Four. You talk about good on good, that's exceptional on exceptional. 6 seconds to play. 71-64, Wisconsin. Right side front court with 2, with 1. Deal is up, missed it, and the Wisconsin Badgers have made it.
Okay, so we watched the first half of that game. And then you probably can tell I don't miss too many meals, right? I like to eat, right? And I'm there with a bunch of buddies. And anybody ever been to Indianapolis? There's a real famous steakhouse called St. Elmo Steakhouse. So the 24 of us get up at halftime and decide it's literally 3 blocks away from Lucas Oil Field, And we march in, it's like 10:30, 10:45 at night. We march into St. Elmo's and say, we'd like you to seat all 24 of us. Somehow, some way, we got it done, right? And you can see it's a pretty small place. This is one side, this is the bar side. There's another side, which I couldn't get a picture of. That's kind of the dining room side where we were sitting. And something magical happened that I had never seen before, and I wanted to talk about it for a second. So it's the second half of the Kentucky-Wisconsin game. Wisconsin's leading to a upset of Kentucky, right? Big deal. You look around the tables, every table in the restaurant was full, and at least 2/3 of the tables had a phone propped up on its side, held up by salt shakers with a butter dish in front of it, with March Madness on Demand on. Everybody was watching the game on their mobile device. And for me, when you think about it, I've been a digital guy inside traditional media companies going on 15 years now, right? I've been around the block a couple times. I've never seen anything like this, right? Everybody was in this restaurant with their phone on the table watching this. Now, remember, everybody had different phones. There were people with Windows OS, iOS, Android OS, and I regret not taking a picture. But it was amazing to watch everybody sitting there digesting this content and saying, wow, this is kind of a watershed moment, and it reinforces what we've been talking about as a company. Content's the fuel. It's the thing you want to digest or you want to see wherever you are. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. I have to throw this in here first, sorry. Duke wins national championship, yay Duke. I'm going to shift gears to music a little bit. So one of the things I do at CBS is I run the digital music business for all the radio stations we own. And every year, we have this thing called the Grammys, right? And so what we're trying to do now is integrate mobile more into what we're doing in the broadcast. So I'm going to show you this video here real quick. It's about 1.5 minutes of a documentary we did about Taylor Swift and her Album of the Year nominee from 2 years ago, and how it started with broadcast and the payoff was in mobile.
Taylor Swift is one of the biggest music stars in the world today, and her latest album, Red, has sold more than 3 million copies since it debuted late last year. In our Inside the Album segment, we take a look at how Taylor is transforming herself from a country queen to a bona fide pop and rock superstar.
I remember when we broke up the first time, saying this is it, I've had enough.
Taylor Swift's Red is where Taylor Swift declares, I am a country artist, you know me that way, but I am also the biggest artist in the music industry in the US, if not the world. She is not holding back.
A total departure from her last album. I wanted to take my comfort zone, which at that point was writing songs alone, and I wanted to learn. So I called up all these people I'm a fan of.
Of course, there is the Max Martin factor. He did Britney, Hit Me Baby One More Time. He's done the Kelly Clarkson hits, he's done the Pink hits.
Taylor really is sending a signal by working with him that she is going pop.
But there are still plenty of songs on this album that are very country, actually.
I think it's cynical to have any sort of disdain for Taylor Swift for going pop.
I knew that no matter what, we were going to probably pick We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and kind of make people wonder if that was what the rest of the record sounds like, when the rest of the record sounds a lot different than that song, and it's exciting to kind of keep people on their toes.
Taylor is going to end up being one of the most impactful artists of the 21st century.
Want more? We've got a longer, in-depth Taylor Swift Red Inside the Album video on our website at radio.com.
So just from this one little piece of video that ran on our TV stations in about 14 markets, we had a couple million people watch that video, the full documentary, on their mobile devices. And it's a great example of how we're trying to, in smart ways, integrate mobile into the broadcast. It wasn't, Maurice didn't go out and say, hey, take out your mobile phone and watch this now. I'm going to give you one more example like this, and we're coming almost to an end here, is the Grammys. We also try to lead up to the Grammys to kind of get people interested to watch it in broadcast, so it works the other way as well, where we have people watch content on their mobile devices, and it throws back to the broadcast. Let's take a quick look at this. gives you a good idea. We put these, there's a documentary for every one of those clips. We put them all over the internet on our platforms, other people's platforms, mobile devices, and it helped drive people to the tune-in, the Grammys itself. Now, everybody recognizes this guy on the left, right? Alex Rodriguez. The guy on the right's Mike Francesa. He runs a radio show for us in New York. 2 years ago, when Alex was at the arbiter about his case and he stormed out, he ran immediately to our radio station to kind of give his side of the story. I'm going to, hopefully, we'll click and play this. Let's try that again.
They accuse you of so many things. They said you leaked guys' names to Yahoo Sports, right?
Yeah.
Let me just take them one at a time. Yahoo Sports, did you leak anybody's names?
That's laughable. Absolutely not. That's disgusting.
Number two, PEDs. They said you did mountains of PEDs. Did you do any?
No.
Did you obstruct a witness?
What does that mean?
Did you? Well, they accused him of obstruction.
That was one of them.
Right. Did you tamper with any witnesses?
There was no obstruction. There was no intimidating. There was none of that.
None of this.
None of that.
So they don't. And there's not one thing you did.
No.
Hey, I'd be fighting too if that's the case.
So we all know how that really turned out, right? So what's great about this, and you can see some of the people that picked it up, we made this clip available to everybody, right? And mobile devices, this was listened to, I think about 4 or 5 million times in the couple weeks that followed this, and it's still getting listened to today, right? And it's, once again, it's over the air, working hand in hand with mobile to kind of drive the content experience. So, one of the other things that is a key piece, it's not just about live, it's about on-demand content. And we've really started through this Play.it platform, really started to provide that content via audio. And there's over 400 shows that you can find there at any given time. Real quickly on the Boston Marathon, to talk about how mobile drove listenership and viewership that day, when you think about when it happened in the middle of the day, we had 2.9 million people watch video on mobile devices that day, and 2.1 million listen to our radio stations that day via mobile. It's still, to this day, one of our biggest days we've ever had for people trying to find information. And when you think about it, they weren't home, they were on the go, and this was the best way for them to get that information. We have started to do this with a lot of our live shows, the Sports Junkies in DC, where we do live show, then on-demand, and e-commerce, all driven mobily, right? It creates an ecosystem around what we're doing. And then it's important that you hit all these platforms, and I'm going to finish up right now before I get the hook here. There's some new things coming. Well, first off, mobile listening is the best way for advertisers to reach consumers, right? And so if a phone's tucked into somebody's pocket, audio ads tend to work the best. And then native advertising, we continue to do more and more from a video standpoint with native as well as audio, allowing brands to get in there. And then everybody's seen this? Johnny Walker Blue has started to put beacon stickers on the bottles so that if you have the right app, you go near the bottle, it provides you content, right? Really a tremendous way for us to start reaching consumers wherever they are. And to finish up, everybody's seen these, right? The Amazon buttons, right? And everybody's focused on this delivering products to your home. You could use these buttons to do this as well. You're walking out the door, you hit the button, so by the time you get to your car, the traffic report's waiting for you on the car, right? So these are all these type of things are about to come into your life, and it's all content that's driving it. So just to finish up, oops, let's go back one, there we go. It all starts here, right? This is where you're experiencing content wherever you are, whether you're sitting on your couch or on the go. I want to thank you all. I know I kind of rushed through the end there, but thank you very much.